Welcome to this call, the latest insights, the third one. So let's start by tuning into our breath, and we'll do a coherence type breathing. So really just slowing down the breath a little bit more, getting in a comfortable position, relaxing the hips a bit, relaxing the shoulders. In for round 4, out for round 6. So when you're ready, you can start to go back to a normal breath, or maybe this feels normal now, to breathe slower, deeper, softer, longer. So just taking all the time you need. Always in my calls, you don't have to participate in any way that doesn't feel natural. Of course, if you want to comment and share anything, that's very welcome. But if you'd like to also just meditate a bit longer and close your eyes, lay down, just receive today, that's really welcome as well. So just taking the time that you need and showing up the way you want to show up. So welcome to these calls. This is a monthly call that I do where I share some insights that most of them are landed, things that I've already been through and that I feel like, okay, this is insight that I just went through. Other times it's something that I'm still working on, so something that is not completely polished and finished, but something where I'm still like, I wonder this and what if that. And the last call I went into like quite a rabbit hole about patience and understand, like, what is patience, and is it actually something that doesn't serve us, even though it's sought after, such an important virtue. So I was really like going into that and not having the answers. So in these calls and in my work, I don't have the answers to life, obviously. They're reflections, they're insights. They are insights to look inside of something. Like, this is my look inside of life, and this is supposed to spark, inspiration, contemplation, perspective, these type of things. So you could just totally not agree with me with some things, and that's really fine. Something I've been realizing lately, and I forget where I shared this. I was on a live stream on Facebook the other day. It was a really good live stream. I felt like that live stream, I felt this feeling that I used to feel when I did live streams. Like, it was really good. And I was saying that I'm really realizing lately that value is relative. So what you value could be something that I don't value at all. What someone else values could be something, it doesn't matter to you at all, but they value it so much. And they're just like, well, this is, I would do anything for this thing, or I would pay this certain price for this thing. And the other person's like, I would never pay that for that thing because I don't value it, or I don't need that because I don't value it. So value is really relative. And I think when we, for example, work with somebody, so, or show up to a call, like, have an expectation of, you're spending time with me now, you're spending 1 hour or this time together. And if you have an expectation that every single minute of this hour you're going to get something from me, it's a bit like stressful in a sense of like, she has to say every word that's going to inspire me and that is going to bring me everything that I need, because I'm spending my time or money if it's like a program or a course, and I need to get something for every single minute of what I pay for because I value it, or what I show up for. And what I realized lately, and I was reminded of it, but it's definitely something that has been happening in my life, where if I just get one thing that changes my life, or that makes me look a certain way into something, that gives me a perspective, that guides me in the right direction, if I just get one sentence, it's worth it for me. And it depends, like, that magnitude really depends on, you know, but I remember investing over $10,000 for 1 month. So that's 100,000 kroners. Oh, more than that. For 1 month of support. And it was it was quite a big experience for me at the time to invest that type of money for such a short time. And I remember I got a lot of nuggets. And looking back, it's like there was, like, on the top of my head, how many nuggets can I actually remember? Of course, I can go back to my notebook and I can go back to certain things and be like, okay, that is what I learned. But taking with it, it was like 2 or 3 things that I applied in the moment and will forever change the trajectory of, my work and my being and my business and things like this. So that's worth it for me. So it's like, sometimes if you go into something and you're thinking, I need to get everything from this thing, check in with where your values are, with what you want and what you like, what will actually change your life. Because oftentimes one sentence can change your life. If it's the right sentence, if it's the right thing, it will stick with you forever. And this is the power of teachings as well. It's like, not everything I say is going to be perfect for you, and not everything is even going to make sense to you. And because, I have my own way of saying things and teaching things and whatever. But I've heard throughout the years, people coming to me and be like, I remember that one sentence you said on that one video or that one class. And that was years ago, like 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, and they still remember it, and it's still with them. And it's a teaching that has helped them. It reminds them, it brings them back. And for me, that's invaluable. So why I bring this up is that, this call, I hope there's 1 or 2 things that will stay with you, and that will be good enough. That will be more than good enough, I think, at least for this call. So something I'm doing an online training program right now with some breathworkers and that are facilitators becoming facilitators. And we're in the stage right now where I'm talking about release and aftercare in a session. So how to navigate the session, release, aftercare. And release came up. And it comes up a lot in this work because it's a big part of the breathwork experience is the release. And we see it throughout, social media and also conversation of like these big releases that can happen within a breathwork session, crying, screaming, making sounds, movement. It's this cathartic relief of like, we're getting the release. And it's such a big part of this work, but it's not the whole part of this work at all. It's not the essence of the work either. The essence of the work is the spirit of the breath. It's not the release. It's not what happens. It's not the doing of the thing. It is the thing itself, which is the breath. And so, of course, I have to talk about this and train it about, what do we do when it comes up? How do we notice it? How do we facilitate it? How do we support? How do we know what type of aftercare to give? What different types of release can happen? All of these things. And I started to reflect a little bit deeper into release. And because on the surface level, it's just like, it looks like it can often look cathartic. You have a release. There's tears, there's sounds, there's a movement, right? There's some sort of there's a sigh of relief. There's some sort of like a thing happening for a release to happen. And in my nature of breathing and this work, I tend to want to always connect it to like the simplicity of an inhale and an exhale. And I started to go there. I started to go the path of the exhale because that's what the exhale is teaching us. The exhale is teaching us release. The inhale is teaching us to receive. The exhale is teaching us relief, release, and relief. So I was going a bit deeper, and this process took just like a couple seconds actually. It happened in the moment in the call, where I realized that release is connected to nothingness. And release is not the doing. The release is not the crying. It's not the moving. It's not the shaking. At least this is what I think. This is what I've been kind of inspecting or noticing. So can you actually force a release? Can you create a path for a release to happen? Release happens through movement, sound, and tears and these type of things. And we can make it easier by relaxation. That's one of my foundational teachings in my program is relaxation. The depth and the endless depths of relaxation, it's just crazy. I have a course called Fundament, and I'm talking about the endless depths of relaxation, which is such a beautiful call. So how do we make the release easier? And I really believe it has to do with your relationship to the void, relationship to nothingness. So how easy is it to let go for you? And there's a spectrum. I'm not saying that I'm here and I can let go of things on the spot. I've practiced that many, many years of letting go in one breath, letting go in one breath. That has been one of my favorite practices that I have, and I still continue to do it. Do I succeed every time? No, I don't, for sure not. There's parts of my personality that loves to hold on to things. It loves the attachment, right? We're human. This is just a part of the experience. But the practice is to, how good are we, or how is your relationship to the void? How is your relationship to the nothingness? So what I'm seeing is that the release is connected to the nothingness. Because if there is something, then there is something. There is not, there is no nothingness because there is something there, right? So depending on the situation and depending on your personal story and your personal situation, your personal condition, inside and outside environment, it's going to take different amount of power for each and every one of us to go to the void, to practice the nothingness, and to perhaps undo these conditionings, to undo these attachments, addiction, to attachment. And the more ease this process goes for you of letting go, the more grace you will feel in your life. God, grace, spirit, whatever you want to call it. The let go. So with release, I was talking about sound, and I had this idea that release with sound is not nothingness, because there's sound. You can't have sound without resistance. There is resistance there, there is something there. Whether it's a beautiful, it is what it is, it's sound. It can be a tone, it can be a emotion-filled sound, whatever it is. But it's a release that wants to be heard, because there could be a part of us we weren't heard. So in order for that healing to happen, we believe that we have to be heard. So we release with sound, because now we're going to be heard. It's effective, for sure, and it's a bridge. And at the same time, it's still something. You're still not going into the complete nothingness. You're still not giving it all out. You are giving it with something so that you can get something back. You're sending out something so that you can get some sort of feedback back. And that's a great bridge. It's a great experience. But until you can fully let go without needing the feedback back, trusting that the let go is safe, trusting that you are enough in the nothingness, I believe the release will be unfinished. Now, when I'm talking about this, I'm starting to feel like, who am I to say these big things? But I'm trusting that it is definitely the level of what I want to talk about and how I want to talk about things. I feel like it gives a very beautiful foundation, and from there you find yourself. Where are you? Like I said, I'm definitely not the master of release. I've never claimed to be. I don't call myself an expert. I don't call myself a master in any way. I'm experiencing these things and I'm having these thoughts, and I breathe a lot of people, and I am constantly exploring the human experience of healing, within the healing arts, noticing, what's working for people and what's not, and what's integrating people and what's not, and what's leaving people feel confused and what's leaving people feel clarity. How long does it last? Is it sustainable? What type of principles are being taught, and what type of principles are being practiced, and these type of things. So release is something that is so important. It's the other side. So you have the inhale, the receiving, and the breath is the one doing this work in our body. The breath is the thing that is receiving life, and the breath is the thing that is letting it go. The breath is receiving, and the breath is letting go. So we can learn so much. And as a breath worker, I learn endless lessons from the inhale and the exhale. And I know there's so many more lessons for me to learn. It's incredible. But they're my favorite teachers, because you get it all. You get the expansion, you get the openness, and you get the let go. And in that you find yourself. Where are you? Is there contraction? Is there holding on? Is there resistance? Is there excitement? Is there depth? Is there trust? Is there softness? Does it feel hard? Within these experiences of your inhale and your exhale, you can really experience yourself on a deep level. With the reflection of your inhale and your exhale, you can really experience yourself on a deep level. The beauty of the exhale is the let go. It is the release. As long as there is something, there is a hold. As long as there's something, there is a hold. So the practice of tuning into the void, to tuning into the nothingness, is going to really allow the let go to happen with more ease in our lives. And how do we do that? Like, how do we connect to the void? How do we connect to the nothingness? Where is that practice, and how does this practically look? I mean, it will look very different for everybody, and it can be done in so many different ways. And some practices that I do is the unconditioned breath. So I take a breath that has no agenda, it has no destination, it has no, I don't want to do a certain practice or have a certain result. It's just a complete openness to the breath. I get to know my lungs. I get to know my breathing. That's a beautiful way to feel the void, to feel the nothingness, relaxing the mind, relaxing your thoughts. Because thoughts is a hold. You're holding on to something. You're holding on to a thought, a concept, a perception. So stillness is a beautiful practice of the void. Letting go of, and I think the practices can be like just there's levels, and like I said, depending on the person and situation, environment, inner and outer, it will require different things from different people. Some people in this world are going through things that we couldn't even imagine, or I couldn't even imagine going through in my life. And yes, it will, I really believe it will take them a lot more willpower to be able to trust the void when they have such intense environments. And maybe you yourself, you're going through something that's a bit intense. It will take different amount of power from you to be able to give this trust to the nothingness when you have pain that you want to hold on to, you have pain you want to protect, you have situations that are making you anxious, you have situations that make you nervous, scared, whatever it is. It's so tempting to protect these things, of course, because there's threat in your environment. Again, the spectrum is just so huge, from an internal threat of a shadow from your past, or an actual physical threat in your daily life, or an emotional threat or something like this. So the spectrum is very big, and the practice will look different for all of us. So I really suggest, how do you practice with your own void? How do you give to the exhale? How do you give to life? And who's really controlling your life, your mind? And when I say who, I kind of mean like, what energy are you focusing on or making important in your life? The word spirit, is very interesting, because breath in different languages translate to spirit. And there's something about having this like spirit-filled life. And this can quickly start to feel like religious or something, where it's just like, to fill yourself with spirit and let spirit guide you. So however you want to take that, you do it with your own way, because there's so many ways of saying this and feeling this. But there's a bigger thing happening when we really let go and release into the void, into the nothingness. And the release can look very different. Sometimes it will be crying, sometimes it will be cathartic, because there's parts of us that don't want to let go. And there are parts of us that want to be seen, heard, and met. We're human. It's beautiful. So what I enjoy is like oscillating between the releases that are more cathartic, of like crying, allowing myself to kind of shake, move, cry, make sound, and then oscillating between the not like the complete still release that doesn't have to, it almost, you can't see it, And in one way, you can't see, you in one way, it's like there's just levels of the release. I'm just imagining, certain releases you can obviously see, like if somebody vomits or if somebody is like really releasing, you can see it happen. But often these are things, and maybe on a microscope, you can see the release happening in neural pathways or certain things in the body happening. So you can see it, like it is there, it is happening. But you don't have to like make it so seen to know that it's happening. Going a bit in this type of conversation is like a little loopy. I wanted to say one more thing about release, and it has to do with the lungs. And a lot of people know that in Chinese medicine, the lungs represent grief. And I always thought that was interesting because grief is literally the opposite of letting go, in a sense of like, and I honor grief and the processes of grief and how that looks like for everyone and how it comes in waves and the dimension of grief. I'm not process, but it is, for me, it's in a sense, it's like the opposite of letting go. If when you're grieving it, or it's like that when the letting go and the experience of the something are together. So it's like you're experiencing it, it hurts, but you're also letting it go, hopefully, by expressing it somehow, or by letting, the energy in your body move through the breath. We move chi through the body. Through getting to know your lungs, through getting to know your exhale, you can heal the grief. That's the way to do it. You have to move through it. You have to express it whatever way that looks like for you. So when people don't express grief, there's just a lot of, Chinese medicine talk about, and probably some other practices as well, talk about how that can start with, even asthma and different things in the lungs, can often be traced to grief and the unexpression of it, the holding on to it. So another little fun fact about the lungs that you may know is that it is yin. It's known to be the organ that is a yin. So you have organs that are yin, and then you have some organs that are more yang. And of course, the lungs are yin because they are passive. The lungs need the diaphragm. The lungs need the intercostal muscles in order to expand. The lungs themselves do not do anything. Because of their environment, they are able to expand and relax, expand and relax. So I believe if you want to get the deep, deep lessons of the breath, the yin is such a big part of this. The nature of the lungs are passive, and I think when we realize that and want to get a relationship to the breath, it just opens a whole other door of this intuitive expansion and relaxation, and actually what it takes to do that fully, what it takes for a human to expand with less resistance, and to what it takes for a human to let go with less resistance is huge. And then it starts to go into the conversation of feeling limitless or limited. And this will affect your breath, because the breath is passive. The breath is just responding to the environment. There is no doing. The breath is like, I'm gonna do. It's like, no, the breath is it's just, it wants to breathe you. We have a subconscious urge to be alive, humans. Nobody has committed suicide by holding their breath. At least not that I know of. Maybe it's happened underwater through drowning or something, but that's also external forces. But there's there's an urge inside of us that want to breathe. And I'm sure there's been science done around this, and they've probably tried to understand what that urge is. And of course, the mystics are talking about this. What is that urge? What is that energy that just wants to come in us? What is it? And I don't know what it is. I can't answer that. That'll be the next insight. What is the urge that wants us to breathe? Because I want to get to know that energy and give space to that energy. And that's why I'm not so big on these intense practices with the breath, because there's just such a natural intelligence at play here. And then the nature of the breath is passive. So it's the space around it that needs to create the limitless environment for the breath to breathe. So let's work on those things. And it's usually embodiment and belief and the ability to hold yourself, care, love, all of these things. So you can do a lot of things with the breath. You can do a lot of things with a lot of things. You can do things with things and have stuff and things. But I really believe that we're missing the relationship to the nothingness, or we're missing the relationship to the void. And within that is maybe an access to a more limitless life where you're not limited by a personality, or you're not limited by a certain perspective or a concept. You're not limited by a condition. And like I said, depending on who you are and what you've been through, the journeys look very different for all of us. Great. So that was my first insight, talking a bit about release. And it feels really good to talk about it because I love breath work. I love my work. I love what I do. I love leading, teaching the sessions, and release is one side of the coin. So thank you for listening to that. And I hope you got maybe one or two things from there. So I want to say one more thing today. And yeah, I'll just give like 30 seconds to just land it a bit. Love this so much. So much good. So much good. That's great. I'm happy it's resonating. So just take a little moment to let things land a bit. Yeah, I can talk a lot about release. I notice even more stuff is coming up now, but save it for another time. So the next thing I want to talk about is simple. It's just something that I'm constantly being reminded about, being a breath worker, being a facilitator, and this will also translate to whatever it is you're going through as well if you're not a facilitator. My favorite thing, nothingness. Me too. I need a lot of courage to go there. Yeah. It sounds so easy in a way, right? Like nothing. It's perfect, but then it's not. It's not easy. It is a courageous, trusting process to give whatever you're holding the ability to let go. So we're talking about an inspired, spirit-filled life. So the life filled with more breath and not just oxygen, but spirit. So you're giving space to this for the spirit in to live, to be, and a spirit-ful body, a spirit-ful life is less and less the conditions and less the limit, right? We're talking about the limit of the human is it's quite imaginable. You can create these limits for yourself. So yeah, the good nothingness, courage and trust, 100%. So with teaching, and you can relate this to something else, but there's often times where you can receive a lot of inspiration and healing through your own work. And I experience this so much where I I get so inspired after I teach. Even have experienced my own healing processes in my classes. And I think it's because of two things. One is I focus quite like right now, for example, I'm really present in the teachings and I'm very present in this moment. So I'm not thinking about all the limitations. So in one sense, I'm more spirit filled right now. And also through teaching and through being with others, I'm cultivating connection. So it's like a two-way thing, obviously. Like I love my clients, I love the work that I do, and it's not just me giving, they also give me a lot of love. And it's just the relationships that are built are so healing for both of us. And at the same time, there comes a tipping point where the teachings can sometimes get ahead of the own living practice. And this is something as a teacher always, always, always have to check in with, because if we're modeling a certain way of being, which is a lot of the times what teachers are doing, unless you're teaching a certain someone else's curriculum, like in a school or something. But in general, we're all modeling a certain way of being, and we're sharing insights. And, all of my work is lived experience. So it's this idea that if I go through it, then I can teach it. And the thing here is how it's so important that the practice exceeds the teaching, so that the teachings become an overflow of the practice, not the other way around. And this is something that I've been reflecting really recently on, because to be honest, every new level that I go through in these 7 years of being a professional in this field, I have realized, and even my own personal journey. So I've been on a personal spiritual journey for 10 years now, like a conscious journey of like really going into myself, maybe even longer, 11 years, whatever. And even in the personal journey, there is this check-in of like, what do I need? Like, what do I need more care? And as a teacher, we want to make sure that we're not giving from empty places. And again, this is something that I always have to check in with, and it's always different depending on the levels that I kind of can reach within my ability to hold energy. Because when I can hold more energy, then what would have emptied me before doesn't empty me the same, because I can hold it now. So it's a there's a growth process there, just like in our personal lives as well. There's certain things that you can go through that before would have completely set you out. And that's also the emotional intelligence journey of being able to hold more energy in our lives and not have it take us out completely and check out and do these coping mechanism things, but that we're actually able to still show up fully. Like this call, for example, I just noticed this morning, and I noticed it yesterday, but today it actually hit even more because I just spent the whole weekend moving. And me and my partner were kind of people who, once we're going, it's hard to stop. So it looks like we've lived in this house for like 2, 3 months, and we just moved in 2 days ago. Like we really just went for it and made it so cozy and really like unpacked, and I'm noticing it in my body today. Like, wow, I am tired. I'm very tired. And at the same time, I don't feel like I'm showing up from an empty place today, even though I'm tired. But there is a check-in of being like, I'm definitely not showing up from the most overfull place, overfilled place. And I don't think I mean, that's obviously somewhere where I personally want to be. Like I want to be from an overfull place. Like that's obviously a aspiration and an intention and a focus of mine. But it doesn't happen all the time. And I don't think that's a realistic or like a fair standard to put on myself, because sometimes it just won't be like that. There will be classes and times where I will show up and my cup won't be completely full. But if that happens many times and it becomes a new standard that I show up when my cup is not full, and that's okay over and over and over again, that's also not okay. So there's a constant check-in with yourself throughout the years and the months of, where is your cup and how full is it? And touch, nothingness, not the same. Being a witness, presence, nothingness, emotional authenticity. Yeah. Emptiness and nothingness. Yeah, that's interesting. I have to look up the definitions of the words to see some context. Thanks for sharing that. And, talking about now as well, like not giving from an empty place. Yeah, yeah. Okay, right. So now you're connecting. I see what you did there. I didn't see it right away. Connecting. Mm, yeah. So emptiness for me feels like there's a lack, where nothingness feels like there is space, potential. But it really depends on context. So I could have used different words there, and I decided to use the word empty, and I decided to use the word nothing, where maybe others could have used it the other way around and see empty as a potential to fill and nothing as an absence of something. So I love what Eckhart Tolle says about words. They're very hard to explain the human experience, and we're trying our best, and they're always just pointing towards things. Words are just pointers towards a felt sense, and but they're fun to play with, and they're important to acknowledge, like what words are you using, because every word will point to something. And so in this sense, when I'm saying empty place, it's coming more from like a lack of, when I feel I'm empty, I'm usually like lacking care, I'm lacking connection, I'm lacking something, where someone else could use the word empty and it feels amazing and ready to be, you know, they feel great coming from this empty place. So something that I learned many years ago is actually a partner many years ago that saw me teaching to the level that I was teaching and all these classes and all these things that I was doing. But then I would come home and I was struggling with my emotional health. I was struggling with a little bit with my mental health. I was struggling. But then I was, booked here and there and doing a class there and doing this thing. And I was teaching and I was doing all this stuff. And he said, you know, your level of self care needs to be above the level of your teachings. And I'll never forget he said that to me, because it really became a new awakening. Again, one of those one sentences that change your life. The level of your self care needs to be above the level of your teaching. And it's a constant reminder. Again, checking in monthly, to just be like, where am I at? So, the level of care you want to give to the world, you need to match it and some for yourself. And I know this is not always easy, but it is ideal for all of us that we match the same energy we want to give for ourselves and some. So the idea, like I said, is to come from overflow. I want my teachings to come from the excess of my practice. I want to be living practice enough that there's, extra to give. That's the whole point of this. I want to do sessions for myself and get the inspiration so much that I want to give the sessions to others, because I've gotten so many of them and I love the work and I've gotten so much love and inspiration. I want to give it. And the teachings, because I've gotten so much from the teachings, it's changed my life. Some of the emotional intelligence work that I teach inside Healing the Heart has completely changed my life with relationships and communication, and the relationship with myself and others, romantic. And it's just overflow, where it's just like, I want to teach this to others because I have it and I practice it and I love it and I have extra. I have more to give. And when this isn't in alignment, like when I feel empty, I think it's fine. I don't want to shame you or me or anyone for to feeling a bit empty, in the sense of like a bit of lack, a bit of like, my practice isn't totally up, and I'm teaching and I'm not feeling so inspired, and things aren't really like, sparking and going crazy and whatever, like being this huge expectation. I think it's just an invitation to up your care game. It's an invitation to go deeper into a practice. So it's all invitation. And the way that you want to do it will be up to you. How you want to dive more into the practice or the teachings or your own care practice. And just making sure that you are in surplus before you give, and at least having that as an aspiration and not settling for the standard of being empty. And I think this goes for every part of our lives, right? Even in relationships, if you're going through, a week or two or a month or a phase where you're just feeling a bit empty, like, you're going to be okay. But if that goes years, that's not okay in my mind. If you feel empty in your relationship and you don't feel like you have extra to give in your relationship for years, and depending on what life is serving you and what you're going through, it can happen that there will be a phase where you're just not, on top of every single thing and you're feeling like you're rocking your world. That's part of being human, and there's phases and we all go through them. The seasons are so real. I have a free experience. I think it's, oh, maybe it's, no, it's not free. It's inside Breathe Live. It's the end of the year experience I did. And I talked about the seasons and the phases that we all go through, and just like letting yourself have a season and, learning from that is so powerful. But when a season becomes a standard, that's when you want to be a little bit careful, especially when the standard is below, where you want it to be. Of course, you can have an incredible season in your life and that can become a new standard. That's great, as long as it's supporting you. So that's what I wanted to share today, and I really hope it kind of brought you somewhere within yourself for further contemplation, or yeah, just enjoying this conversation. It's so important to also be in communities and places where certain conversations inspire you and light you up and you feel seen and heard, like, oh, I'm not the only one who thinks like this, or that really supported me, or that one sentence, right? So I hope that my spaces can be that place for you as well. I have some different offers going on right now. Healing the Heart is coming up in April. It's a little less than a month away. This is a 3-week personal initiation journey where I teach all of the emotional intelligence practices, embodiment practices, and theoretical practices with communication, with understanding your emotions, with working with the worthiness, with working with love and relating to other people and yourself. This is a self journey that turns into a celebration. What have you been through? How can we celebrate your different accomplishments in your life, even if they're not visible? And I think this is so important. This is what I talked about in the live stream on Facebook. If you want to check it out, I think if you get to like the middle of it, that's when it started to get really good. Talking about how, when we're younger, we're celebrated for everything. You start walking, everyone's clapping, all these things. But when you get older and you're healing something really big in your life, no one's there to necessarily tell you that you did a good job. And some of us might have friends and partners that are really good at seeing us and do that extra detail to acknowledge. But for the most part, we forgot that that's actually our own job to do. And just like the kids, we're waiting for the external, just like when we were kids, we're waiting for someone to come and say like, hey, did you see that? Did you see what I did there? So healing the heart is the journey of self-validation and the self-fulfilled path, self-fulfillment. And that's 3 weeks. It's a group program. It's an intimate program where you get a lot of time to share and connect with the others and have practices and pre-work. And there's just like a lot to it. There's a workbook. There's meditations, breath session. It's a whole thing. So that's coming up in April. And Breathe Live membership, that's the place where if you want to do breath work with me, there's the master classes once a month. And that's just a place for breathwork practice. Like if you really just want to go through the sessions. I've had members in this membership for years, and just journeying and just making sure that you get the breathwork sessions into your daily life. There's a session, 2 sessions a month, and you also get the replays that you can download. And I think these have been incredible. I've had people that have been members years ago that reach out to me and say they still do even though they're not in the membership, they still have the downloadable sessions. So the value is just incredible, and you can join at any time. That experience is incredible. Other than that, there is a free Facebook group. Please join that, because I love to post in there. I actually like to post in there more than my public Facebook page recently. So just everything that's going on is there. And sometimes I do like little videos and little things in there that are not seen anywhere else. And tomorrow is the equinox. So I would love to celebrate that with you. And I'm doing a free event tomorrow as well with breathwork ceremony. We are going to tune into this rebirth. I'm calling it the rebirth energy. And I feel like release is going to be a thing there as well, where we'll be able to take what we learned today and really put it into the session. So I'm calling it rebirth, and I am excited for that experience. So thank you so much for joining this call. I'm sending a lot of love always. Stay connected in the places, and I will see you wherever I see you next. Have a beautiful, beautiful day. Bye, everyone.